We are Home Theater United.
Well, good evening and welcome to another episode of Home Theater United. I'm Sam Poston. This is episode 38. And tonight, one of our favorite guests, Todd Erwin, is back. Say hey, Todd.
Hey, Todd.
You sound great, Todd. I guess you got some new gear, right?
Yeah, I've got a new NT USB Mini by Rode.
Yeah,
And,
Rode's one of my favorite brands. It sounds great. That's awesome.
Yeah,
And-
I've been pretty happy with it so far.
Awesome. So tonight, Todd, we're going to talk about Streaming Frustrations 2022, and you were part of our original Streaming Frustrations crew. We don't have a lot to talk about before we jump into Streaming Frustrations, but Todd, as you know, I think I've told you before that July 1st is my birthday, which was a couple weeks ago, which
Happy
is
birthday.
Oh, thank you. I don't bring that up because, I wanted people to send gifts, but it's halfway through the year. And so that means that stores like Amazon and Best Buy and those guys are running their, what used to be called Christmas in July, and now Amazon's calling Prime Day. We started to see some deals kind of creep in the last week, and tonight it kicks off at midnight. And for the most part, I'm not a super huge fan of the Prime Day, and I think that there's 98% junk in those sales. But the one thing that I did see that was launched today at a price break was the Apple TV at $120. Did you have
the
some?
32 gig. The 32 gig is 120, but you can get the 64 gig at Best Buy for 140.
Okay, and I saw
and their price matching Amazon.
Right, well. and so I used to buy the 64s, and nobody can convince me it does anything any better for the way that I use it. So for $120 for all the people that have been screaming, I'd buy an Apple, but they're too expensive. If $120 for what I consider the best bang for the buck, and honestly the best image quality and sound quality device, if that's not worth it to you, or if you're still anything but Apple, I can't argue with those types of things. But for $120, jump in, buy one for the bedroom. It's a good deal. The other news, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Oh, definitely. And Roku's kind of going in on that too. You get the Ultra for $80.
I didn't see those.
4K for $30. Those are not Prime deals. Those are Roku deals. So those are pretty much across all retailers.
Okay, well that's great to know, and I'm sure we'll put links to all those similar streaming and home theater related deals as they come across. I did see the list of the camera gear for the first 6 hours did leak, and without exception, it's all Chinese knockoff stuff. And nothing against the Chinese, but we all know those brands that don't invent things; they just basically steal the designs from somebody else and put it under their own brand, and that seems to be what all that is. So the other bit of news that came across in the last couple weeks was I got a surprise DVD in the mail, and why don't you tell us a little bit about that present you sent me?
Well, about 40 years ago, almost exactly 40 years ago, I did a movie called The Adventures of Terrific Man, which was a kind of ahead of its time superhero comedy that was the brainchild of a friend of mine in Drama Club buddy. And so we made the movie, and I think we'll have a link in the show notes where you can actually, because I've since uploaded everything to YouTube.
Oh, okay.
That's nice. On that disc, except for the short "I'm Only Sleeping" because YouTube wouldn't let me upload it.
Why is that?
Because music rights.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So I want to talk about a few things about that before we jump into our main subject. First of all, for 40 years ago, the special effects that you had, I think, was also in Terrific Man, but it was mostly in I'm Only Sleeping, if I remember right, where you basically zap people out of existence. Can you tell us how you did that?
that was only in I'm Only Sleeping. That was the old get the get the needle out and scrape the emulsion on the film.
Ah, okay. So it's was actually modifying the film after it was shot. Gotcha. Okay, I was pretty
Very,
impressed with that. That was pretty cool.
yeah, very, very, very old school.
So, as I've mentioned, in high school, I took a film production class, and in college, I took a film history. So, I was definitely into it in the same era of my life that you were. You got your start. But from most of my cohort, it was all about saying, "Oh, imagine 10 years from now when we have all these video cameras and everything gets." Pricey and we can make movies, and we talked about it and never really actually did it. And of course, in not too long after that, Kevin Smith, who was in the next town over, just built a whole empire by saying fuck it and put $30,000 of on his parents' credit cards and did a real honest to goodness film. So and so it just basically blew up like 5 years after I was a kid, where we were dreaming about it and not having the dough to do it. And folks like you and Kevin, just said, "Well, we're really gonna do this, and we'll learn from it, and we'll grow from it." So that's pretty awesome.
I'm still trying to do that.
Well, I mean, aren't we all? I mean, if
Yeah.
if I hit the lottery tomorrow, I would certainly try to go down that route. And I as a kid, I thought of myself as a storyteller, and then I got into my 20s, and I'm like, I just don't have anything that interesting to say. And with 30 years of living after that, and brain tumors, and moving up and down the Eastern Seaboard, maybe I got a story or two in me. We'll have to see. It's always guys like me that say, "Yeah, someday." Well, we'll see when someday comes.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
And I took a little vacation end of May and shot a lot of video on my iPhone 13
Okay.
in cinematic mode,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just blown away.
Yeah.
So I've always said, no, I would never shoot a movie on a smartphone,
Yeah.
but I'm now rethinking that.
Yeah, isn't it crazy how the technology just simply fits in your pocket today, and it's available almost as a side thought to those devices.
True.
It's pretty crazy. But I want
And then you can get free editing software
Sure.
that is professional
Yeah.
quality,
Yeah, it's
like
insane.
DaVinci,
Yeah,
that's free.
yeah, it's unbelievable. The one thing I did want to say is that I was really impressed at how well you put together the Blu-ray, because you did brand new menus and transitions and stuff like that. So that looked great. So congratulations on that. Nicely done.
Oh, thank you. That was all done in Adobe Premiere and Encore CS5 to kind of show you how old that is.
Okay. So you're one of the ones holding off on getting the subscription?
I don't use it enough for me to consider using subscription.
Yep.
I don't need the higher the new bells and whistles
Right.
for what I use it for.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I'm now kind of teaching myself how to use DaVinci Resolve,
Okay.
which is much more powerful,
Mm-hmm.
has much more powerful color correction dials and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So my next project is the follow-up film that I never got to finish, called Warren's Revenge, and I'm going to be transferring that soon. Yeah, it's funny you said Chinese knockoffs. The Super 8 the Super 8 scanner that I have is called a Magnasonic, but it's identical to the Wolverine, and it was like $100 less.
Yeah, on
Amazon. So
there are things out there like 3D printers that if you buy from the Chinese knockoff, you're getting 98% of the quality, and I'm all for that. But there's also an awful lot of shovelware out there that's just junk. And
absolutely.
I don't even know how Amazon can warehouse all of it, because it's like, all right, every quarter, if it's not selling, we're just going to basically give it away. So,
yeah.
All right, well, that brings us to our main topic tonight, which is streaming frustrations, which essentially you are the archaeologist and just the voice of record of that, at least at Home Theater Forum. So why don't you tell us a little bit about where you see that where you see that industry today?
Well, it's been growing thanks to the pandemic, especially during the entire lockdown. where everything was shut down and everything, people were working from home and stuff like that. So that helped streaming grow tremendously, and it really helped services like Disney Plus, who launched months before the lockdown. And so it's continuing to grow. I think we're starting to see people, users starting to get
used to
they're
it.
starting to see it really hit their wallet.
Yeah. Oh, you mean
'cause
too
that-
much?
Too much. They're starting to see just how much they are spending on streaming services, and and Netflix had a really bad quarter because they raised their prices once
Yep.
again, and people balked.
Yeah.
Some people walked. Some people just downgraded their service.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to start seeing some changes, I think, with Netflix and Disney Plus going forward before the end of the year.
Okay,
and
so
we'll probably that's one of our topics.
sure, and
Later.
the term for that is churn, right? So
Correct.
companies like Netflix have churn estimates built into their profitability, right? They're expecting, I don't know, say 20% of their subscribers are going to drop off every 6 months to a year, maybe more or less than that. I don't know what it is. Whereas Disney, I think, has built in, a value proposition that is supposed to be, prevent a lot of that churn. But one thing that I've been predicting we're starting to see more of, there are services like, I think it's called Truebill, right, that help you figure out which streaming services you're actually still subscribed to, which ones you're not using, and help you, uninstall those. Have you explored those at all?
No, I have not, and I probably should.
Yeah, that's probably actually a really good topic for a thread at Home Theater Forum, because I mean, our guys are like the dream consumers for a service like that. I don't know how the pricing works. How do they make money on that by having you stop a service? Is it a flat fee? I don't know. So maybe that's something we'll look into and maybe even make another show about down the future.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. I know there's a lot of people on Home Theater Forum who don't sign up for the annual for most of the streaming services, and they'll sign up for a service for a month or two, and gorge themselves on content until they're basically, okay, I've watched all the usual shows that I like to watch and all the movies I like to watch, and oh well, all my favorite shows aren't going to be renewed for another 6 months to a year.
Yep.
So it's time to move on to another service. And I know there's quite a few people that do that.
Yeah.
And I just have not been able. I haven't.
Yeah, I'm not the kind of
into doing that.
Yeah, I'm not the kind of person that jumps between services either. And basically, the way I've told people is, a lot of these services, if you just wanted to watch one show, it's cheaper to get the service for a couple months than it is to buy it on like iTunes or Vudu. And I went against my own advice with Better Call Saul. I missed the first 2 or 3 episodes, and I started looking at the AMC things, and the pricing is just inscrutable, man. It's hard to figure out what it's going to cost you. And I said, screw that. And I just went and bought the season on iTunes. So I got to wait like a day or two for them to come out each time, and they're, in between the half season now. So, but
well, it's also a co-production with Netflix. So they'll show that the final season will be on Netflix eventually.
Yeah, but I that was the week that I had COVID that they first started coming out. So I was behind the turns, and it's not like we have a lot of water cooler moments anymore with the pandemic. I don't go into an office per se except a couple times a week, but there's still folks that I like, chatting about, recent TV shows with. And so missing out on that because I didn't have that one show hurt. I mean, it's my hobby to talk about this stuff. So I bit the bullet and spent $24 damn on iTunes for a single TV show, and I hate myself, but at least I got to watch the show that I enjoy.
Yeah. Well, speaking on that, going back to Prime Day, a lot of the Amazon Prime channels like Paramount Plus and I think Hallmark Movies and a few others, for the next two or 3 days are going to be 99 cents a month for 2 months.
Oh, so they get you hooked and then hope that you forget about it.
And then they start charging you the full price.
Yeah, bastards.
So, but if anyone's looking to try out those services, because I think Paramount Plus only gives you a 7-day free trial.
Okay.
A lot of services don't even do free trials anymore. But if you know you've got like a couple seasons of a show that you used to watch because you've cut the cord
Mm-hmm.
and you were hoping that those shows would show up on Netflix, and they never did, but they
Yeah.
are available on one of those Prime channels. There you go, 99 cents a
Okay.
month for 2 months, and then you just cancel it, and that's $2. So
I gotcha. The only thing I really watch on Paramount is the Star Trek shows and Survivor, and both those look and sound great on that channel. So I don't know if I'm in need of any of the add-ons, I guess.
with I laugh because we do watch a lot of CBS programs
Yep.
that are on broadcast, and I do have a DVR,
Mhm.
and we're cord cutters, so we record it off the air. But I record the shows off the air from CBS only so that I know that there's a new episode, and then we watch it commercial free on Paramount Plus.
Oh, okay. You know what? I have been against the whole idea of cord cutting, but I think I'm subscribed to pretty much anything that I care to on the streaming service, and the quality is so much better than over the air.
It is.
I think I'm going to cancel cable, Todd. I think you just talked me into it without even meaning to.
Well, the problem I have here, because I live in Reno, outside of Reno,
Yeah.
and it's a small market.
Yeah.
We don't have any owned and operated stations here.
Oh, so you get everything from Vegas?
These are all network affiliates.
Oh.
So all the channels coming out of Reno are network affiliates, but they're owned by other station groups.
So how does that work?
These guys are so hungry for advertising dollars that they frequently come back into a show 30 seconds to a minute late.
Oh.
They'll break away in the middle of a show. And it's funny, we'll talk about this a little bit when we start talking about ad-supported streaming services. They'll cut into a show midstream where there is no commercial break built in and run it local ads.
Oh no, I would take a baseball bat to somebody's car over that if you started doing that to my shows.
That's another reason why we end up. Well, we have the DVR. We're not paying a monthly fee for it or anything like that. So we'll just record the shows, and if it's available on a service that we subscribe to that is advertiser free, like Paramount Plus, then we just watch it on that.
Yeah, I got rid of the DVR maybe 2 years ago. I guess right at the beginning of the pandemic when my renters went away, and I've kept the cable, thinking that it would be part of the package that I offer when people rent rooms from me. And again, I haven't had many renters through the pandemic. I got a guy that's commuting here from Florida, so he's here a couple days a week. He's like, "No, I got my own streaming services." I'm like, "Damn, I kept that running for 2 years and just ate that because I don't watch any of the broadcast TV. So I think I'm going to turn that off tomorrow." You might have convinced me.
Well, is your internet and your TV through the same company?
It is, yeah.
Make sure before you do that you're not going to end up paying more than what you're paying now.
Yeah, that is the rub, right? It's almost worth it.
When you call in, go, "Hey, hypothetically, what would my monthly cost be if I canceled my television service?"
Yeah, I don't use
hypothetically.
I don't use the phone either, so that's basically the only people that call there are spam messages and doctor's appointments. So I don't know. I'll have to look into that. It'll be something I document for the forum too. So you talked about the actual evolution of the business of streaming. Do you think the quality has gotten better overall, or is it basically still balkanized into like iTunes looks great, Vudu looks mostly great, but there's still problems with video quality on all the individual services if you're outside of those islands?
I think it's been getting better, but I think it also has to do with the fact that I think internet infrastructure here in the U.S. is actually getting better.
Yeah.
So I think that may have been part of the hit that we were seeing with some services. But yeah, I mean, some companies are still better at adding coding than others.
Yeah. And especially on the audio side, right? It's the audio side that's so inconsistent. Is that still true?
No, it's both.
Okay.
And actually, each company does do their own encode.
Mm.
People don't realize that. And I had the opportunity to speak to can't remember his name, but and it had to do with the Vudu Fandango Now merger thing. And I actually was able to get to talk to the VP of content at Vudu Fandango.
Oh, cool.
And he was telling me that, yeah, when we get a movie in from a studio, we have to then encode it ourselves for so it'll work on our software. And he says, sometimes we do make mistakes and we have to go back and re-encode it, but they are also at the mercy of what the studio sends them, and that's one of my frustrations is, when you go to a service and you go and you look at it and you go, okay, why is it full screen? This movie was shot 2.39 to 1. Why am I only getting it in full screen, or why is it only
Right.
stereo when I went to the theater and it was in Dolby Atmos? And
By
no
full
one can
by
seem
full
to give
screen,
the
you're saying
consumers no one can give the consumers a straight answer on that.
by full screen you mean 16:9, not 4:3.
It's a full 16:9.
Yeah, but not 4:3.
What we would now call full screen today.
Yeah. Brian would like it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. He might not.
He likes OAR, but he wants the OAR to be 16:9. I get it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, progress though, right? I mean, we're making progress overall.
Well, I think it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Mm-hmm.
In many cases.
And do you think Apple has a leg up because they make their own encoding software and they do Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision encodes natively for their iTunes service? So it just that put them so far ahead, or does everybody have that hardware software encode and they're just making mistakes?
They all have the encodes, because Prime Video could go back to doing Dolby Vision again.
Mm-hmm.
They were doing Dolby Vision on a couple of their originals, and then they went back to HDR10, HDR10 Plus.
Yep.
Which boggles the mind because there's so few displays that support HDR10 Plus.
It's just Samsung, right?
Samsung, and I think the Samsung Hisense, and I think the I forget what brand Amazon calls their TVs that they started manufacturing last summer.
Interesting. That was one of the things that I found not frustrating but curious. I think I bought 2 new TVs this year. I bought the G2 and I bought the C2. And so we had a bunch of these YouTube reviewers on the show, and it was fascinating talking to them. But a lot of them were pushing for this HDR10 Plus, and they were pushing for Samsung technologies. And I'm going, I don't know, guys. Maybe I'm in my ivory tower here, but I'm just not seeing the call for it. And they were actually poo-pooing Dolby Vision, especially Dolby Vision Gaming, saying, "Oh, it's not accurate," blah blah blah. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'll take a slight hit to accuracy for better specular highlights, and that was almost. That was blasphemy to them. So,
well, I think part of the thing also is that when I was looking at, because I bought a TV back in October, November of last year, an LG C1, and I was reading reviews, and they were saying that actually, the C1 was not quite as accurate as a Samsung, and I'm like, well. I was kind of in the same boat that you are, and but I did some thorough research in looking for a new TV, because part of me wanted, what TV does offer all 3 HDR standards, and the only one TV brand that did was Hisense.
Oh, I was going to guess Vizio, so Hisense actually has all 3.
Hisense does do HDR10, HDR10 Plus, and
Dolby
Vision.
Is that what you wound up buying? Oh no, you wound up buying the C2.
No, I'm with LG OLED.
Yeah,
the C1.
And did you evaluate the Hisense?
Well, I don't have any stores near me, so it was all basically just reading reviews, how reliable is the TV, because I have not had good luck with flat panels.
Yeah, I remember seeing the store that you took the last one to.
Well, the funny thing is the TV that I bought, the two TVs that I bought prior to the one that I have in my office, the 65-inch LG, which is a 4K non-HDR but 3D
Mm-hmm.
that we have out in the living room, that's the oldest TV I've ever had. I mean, I've had that TV, I think 6-7 years.
Okay.
Which for all the flat panels that I've had, that's the longest. Knock on wood. I mean, that's the longest I've had a flat panel last for me.
Mm-hmm. Are you still buying 3D movies for it?
No.
Yeah, that's another discussion for another day because it still keeps rearing its ugly head. Everybody's convinced that Avatar is going to be the renaissance of 3D, and I'm not convinced. But so let's dig into some of the other questions we have. So the big one that was on my mind, and the reason why I wanted you to come on, was talking about this news story where PlayStation and Sony are going to remove some content from people that actually bought it. So it's in their locker, and they will no longer have access to it again. What's your take on that?
I think it had more to do with that Sony was shutting down their PlayStation movie store.
Yep.
So PlayStation's not going to be selling movies anymore.
Yep.
So that was part of it. But they wanted to tell customers, okay, we're going to close the store, but anything that you've previously purchased, you can still access. You can still stream it. You can still download it.
Right.
For as long as we still keep the PlayStation Store itself open, or as long as you have a PlayStation account. And I guess they could not reach, I'm guessing they could not reach a deal with Studio Canal.
Right. So that they licensed that content and had to find a way to migrate those purchases and couldn't do it. So they're in between a rock and a hard place. Legally, they're in good position, right? Because everybody knows you don't buy digital content. You only rent it until you're dead.
You're purchasing a license to watch it not indefinitely, but you can watch it an unlimited number of times, but not necessarily indefinitely.
Right, because the service
for as long
could
as
change.
they have the license for that movie.
Yeah. So it sucks, but them's the breaks, right?
Yeah, and this has happened before here in the U.S. I was trying to find when it happened and how bad it was, but I know there was a company called Relativity Media,
right?
And they used to be like Legendary or Rat Pack Dune.
Yeah.
They would co-produce movies with major studios.
Yeah, they're a financing company.
They were a financing company. They then went off and tried to be their own little studio.
Right.
With a distribution deal, I think with Fox at the time. And when they filed bankruptcy, one of the first things they did was they canceled all their licenses with Ultraviolet.
Okay.
So what ended up happening was and this was when we had more, really the only company that still exists that was Ultraviolet is Vudu.
Right.
So if you had purchased your movie from like Flickster or from FandangoNow or one of the other Ultraviolet companies, that you retain the rights on that service, but you lost the ability to watch that movie on any of the other Ultraviolet services. And so a lot of people were up in arms saying, hey, how come I was able to watch this movie on Vudu? I'm not able to watch it anymore. Well, because you bought it on this other service that was part of Ultraviolet, and it doesn't exist anymore.
Did those people that lost out, they got refunded, if I remember right? Is that true or no?
No, they were able to keep the movie on the service that they originally purchased it on or redeemed it through.
Okay, but if those went away and you only had Vudu and iTunes left, what happened to those folks?
Okay, well, if you purchase it on FandangoNow, today, you would be able to watch it on Vudu because they merged the libraries when the companies merged.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know what happened if you bought it on Flickster or one of the other Ultraviolet or Target Ticket or God forbid Cinema Now.
Right. So the lesson here for me is you're crazy if you spend any money on any storefront that is not named iTunes or Vudu, and I'm not sure about Vudu. right? If you want to be sure that you're going to keep it for your lifetime, you should redeem on iTunes if at all possible. Am I crazy on that, or is that reasonable?
Well, okay. If it's a Movies Anywhere affiliated
True. Okay.
studio,
Yeah.
you're probably safe as long as the retailer is also Movies Anywhere.
Right.
So if you purchase it or redeemed it on Vudu or on Prime Video or I don't know, DirecTV,
Right.
you're probably okay.
Because it goes back to the Movies Anywhere locker. That's the master for all those other storefronts.
Correct.
Yeah.
And in fact, I've even had a couple movies that were Movies Anywhere at one point and are no longer Movies Anywhere titles.
Oh, well, that's complicated.
That would be like Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest, recently changed hands.
Okay.
So it's now owned by the distribution of that is now controlled by Shout Factory, which is not a Movies Anywhere.
Right.
But because I redeemed it when it was still with Fox, I can still watch it on my Movies Anywhere app. Yeah. I can still watch it on Vudu. I can still watch it on Prime Video.
Gotcha.
I can still watch it on iTunes. I can't upgrade it. Or if I do upgrade it on one service, it's only going to be upgraded on that one service.
Okay. Well, that actually brings
and all of the Leica Studio movies they've moved from Universal over to Shout Factory as well.
Which ones?
Leica, that would be Coraline, Paranorman.
Okay, gotcha.
That studio.
Gotcha. So that actually brings me around to Movies Anywhere, which I think a lot of us thought were going to be the savior here, but they haven't added anybody since launching, right?
Studio-wise, no. Retailer-wise, they did add Microsoft and DirecTV.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Why do you think, let's say, Lionsgate hasn't joined Movies Anywhere?
It's funny. Adam Gregory, I was trying to find the post. He actually posted this on one of the threads, and I don't remember where. And I was having a hard time today finding it. He's one of the owners of a home theater forum. He said, I can't give you the source, but it's costly. It costs millions and millions of dollars just for a studio to join Movies Anywhere. I can't imagine how much it would cost for a retailer.
Maybe it was on my thread where I thought Apple had charged me for a thing
no,
that I redeemed.
This goes back
else?
maybe a year or two.
Okay.
It may have been in the Streaming Frustrations Volume 1
I see.
thread.
So that's another point that I have is that Lionsgate actually will let you redeem on Apple TV for the Unbearable Weight of Unbelievable Talent, which is the first time any of us remember seeing that from Lionsgate in a long time. Do you think that's just specifically how they licensed this from the original producers, or is it like a new long-term shift for them to allow you to redeem on Apple?
I can't really answer you, Sam, because I have not redeemed a Lionsgate movie since John Wick 3.
Okay. Well, I just got Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think that's also Lionsgate, so I'll try that tonight.
Okay.
Be interesting to see.
But if I remember when I reviewed John Wick 3, I think I had a choice of Vudu or iTunes back then. So
really?
It could be they just flip-flop back and forth, willy-nilly. I don't know.
Well, I think Lionsgate, unlike most other studios, except for maybe Sony, they license a lot of stuff from like independent, producers, and things get thrown under the Lionsgate umbrella, despite having been developed by even major studios. So it may be part of that license negotiation. I don't know. But I was happy to see it. In fact, I was happy to recognize it afterwards because it didn't even register for me. Because you give me a choice between Vudu and Apple, and I'm going to do Apple every time, unless it's Movies Anywhere.
Right. And I'm the same way. I mean, if I pick up a Paramount title or a Lionsgate title, and they give me the option of iTunes or Vudu, I'm going to go with iTunes because even if I just bought this is what I love. If I buy even if I just buy the Blu-ray and they're giving me a choice of iTunes or Vudu, iTunes is going to give me 4K.
Oh, see now
in most cases.
Yeah,
And so like when I got the Indiana Jones 4-pack of movies on 4K, I just went ahead and did it on iTunes anyway.
Yeah. So I've been 4K for 3 or 4 years now, and it still doesn't bother me that some titles redeem from those codes as 1080p. If that's what they're going to give me, that's what I'm going to get. I'm not going to get freaked out about it.
Mm-hmm.
Do I want 4K and HDR? Yeah. Am I going to have a hissy fit over it? No. But yeah, that's a good point to, try to maximize your redemption.
If you redeem on iTunes and 4K is available, but
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't a 4K disc available,
Mm-hmm.
if you have the opportunity to redeem on iTunes, there's a good chance that you're going to get the 4K version. It's
Right.
not guaranteed,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a good chance that you're going to do that. Now, interestingly enough, Universal Rewards, they had some good movies this month, and I had like 33,000 points to redeem.
Yeah.
And free movies are 1,000 points each.
Oh man.
And so I'm looking at the library for this month, and they're like, oh, well, here's this one movie that I already have, but it says I can upgrade it to 4K.
Oh, that's a no-brainer.
And it was the movie Big Miracle with Drew Barrymore and John Krasinski, and I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I'll go ahead, and I have all these points.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and upgrade it to 4K. No one has it in 4K. I have 4K rights, but I can't watch it in 4K because Movies Anywhere doesn't have it in 4K.
Oh no.
Vudu doesn't have it in 4K. iTunes, Apple TV doesn't have it in 4K. Prime Video doesn't have it in 4K. One retailer has it in 4K, Google Play Movies, who has removed their app from just about every streaming device out there except Chromecast and Android TVs.
Oh man. Well, you're just gonna have to get a tablet and watch it there, Todd.
No, I mean it's just like that's a waste of points because I already had it in HD.
Yeah. Well, that's a bummer. But
so I'm arguing with them over that right now.
Well, I will take your side in that argument. You can tell them that Home Theater United backs you up on it.
All right.
So the one last thing I have on my list before we get to your list of interesting points is I had a thread that basically said that Doctor Strange's picture quality is a new high water for streaming quality, and I stand by that. But it's been an interesting conversation with people who have different perspectives on how that movie should have been distributed and displayed and stuff like that. Where do you fall on that? Are you an ultra widescreen guy, or you think the 185 looks pretty good, or 190?
1.9 or the 2.4. It's funny with movies like that. Because one of the studios that I do reviews for Home Theater Forum is Disney.
Yep.
So I know I'm going to be getting that on disc anyway.
Yep.
To review. So when it gets to me on disc, I know it's going to be in 2.4.
Right, and you will get the code in 2.4 too, right? So you'll have...
That is correct.
So you'll have all three different ways to watch it.
Right, but my wife and I get impatient because we don't have any movie theaters near us.
Right.
So we will watch it in IMAX Enhanced.
Yep.
The week the week it hits Disney Plus, and then we'll watch it again in 2.4 on disc when my review copy comes.
Yeah. Do you think it earned the label IMAX Enhanced?
I think
Pitchforks, get them ready, folks.
Yeah, it's snake oil, in my opinion. I don't think it looks any better. I don't really, it's hard to say because I don't have any quote IMAX Enhanced licensed products.
Yeah. It's marketing, right? I don't know if I'd call it
marketing. Supposedly, the HDR on it is supposed to be a little more tweaked, but if you go back and you look at any of the IMAX Enhanced discs that came out, or when FandangoNow had IMAX Enhanced movies on their service, and in fact, if you have a newer Sony TV, and you have the Bravia Core streaming service on there. From what I've read, like for example, Spider-Man, what was the last one? Far From Home?
Yep.
Or No Way Home.
No Way Home. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So Spider-Man No Way Home if you redeem one of your credits for a movie on the Bravia Core system service, you will get it in IMAX enhanced. But it'll be, I could be wrong on the HDR. I think it's only HDR10, but it could be HDR10 IMAX enhanced version.
Okay.
Because I know all the Sony discs that came out that were quote IMAX enhanced were not Dolby Vision; they were HDR10, and the audio is DTSX.
Yeah, and you know what? I know people have their favorites, but as long as there's one of them, I'm okay. Would I prefer Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos over DTSX and HDR10? Sure, but I think that's more my lizard brain than any scientific evidence that I have for that.
Well, the funny thing about that is, if you look at the specs for IMAX enhanced, DTSX and HDR10, I think, are in the spec.
Okay. They're like
not
the base
Dolby
layer.
Vision, not Dolby Atmos.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
So that's why it's just so that was why so many people said this really isn't IMAX enhanced on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't really care.
Yeah, exactly. It looks damn good to me, and if the first 10 minutes don't convince you, nothing will. And yeah, I'm okay with that.
If you're going to give me, the 1.9 IMAX version at no extra charge, fine. Yeah, great.
Yeah, Justin Sless and I had a conversation. He's with High Def Disc News, and he's like, I want to see all the extras. I'm like, well, just go to Disney. He's like, there are no extras on Disney. And I guess I, had just completely blocked that from my mind that, so many of those services don't have, the full batch of extras that you get when you have a code or when you buy a movie. And
you'd be surprised. Disney Plus actually does have a lot of the disc-based extras. Now, a lot of times they won't show up until after the disc comes out.
Is that what it is? Because
that's what it is.
Yeah. So for Doctor Strange, there was nothing. So maybe we were just premature.
There, but like for Turning Red,
yeah,
there was nothing on there.
Mm-hmm. Well, except for the making
disc came out, all the extras that were on the disc were there.
Yeah, there was that making of thing because I want to watch,
which isn't on the disc.
Yeah, it was an exclusive to the service. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh well. All right. Well, I am very happy with how the streaming quality looks in my own home, and I hope that most of our listeners can get to experience that they've got good enough infrastructure from their cable systems and however they're getting streams, because when it's right, it looks fantastic to me. And I think in 2022, we have all the pieces together for streams and to look as streams and purchases to look as good to the lay person that if I was to put on a disc in my basement, there's very few people that could tell me the difference between that and a stream. I'd be one of them, and I wouldn't bat 1,000. I'll tell you that for sure. But I think that we're damn close right now.
Yeah, and speaking of things getting better, I mean, I live in a Spectrum area, and I got a notification that for the next couple of weeks, they're going to be doing maintenance on internet and phone between 12 midnight and 6 a.m. because they're upgrading the internet infrastructure here so that anybody who's subscribing to the 100 megabit entry-level service, that's now going to be a 200 megabit service at no extra charge. So it's like, oh, well, there's a plus for you.
There you go. The digital divide is getting slimmer by the day. That's great.
So then you have a company like AT&T that won't upgrade anything past 18 megabits.
Well, and there's
you can't live on 18 megabits anymore.
No, and they also have caps with that too, right?
AT&T has a cap unless, well, it may have changed. It's been so long since I've had AT&T and DirecTV.
Yeah.
We had unlimited internet with AT&T when we still had DirecTV.
Okay.
But when we got rid of DirecTV, we lost our unlimited cap, and then they raised our. My wife works from home, so we have to have internet.
Sure, yeah.
So we have to have some backup plan in case Spectrum goes down for some reason, which they rarely do. And we were paying, $40 a month for AT&T, and then they said, well, it's now going to be $60 a month for our 18 megabit service, and we're like,
that's
screw
crazy.
you.
Yeah.
We're not paying $60 for your dial-up service.
Yeah. Well, I live in an area. I live in a very nice little residential HOA, and every time it rains or we get windstorms, we get spikes that just drop the whole power in the house for literally 2 seconds. But it's just enough to reset the routers and everything, so you're 15 minutes before everything's back up and running. So in those 15 minutes, I go to the LTE on my phone. It's not going to kill me to have 15 minutes without internet. But if I had to long-term plan, for not having FiOS, I don't know what I'd be looking at today, because I don't see a lot of good alternatives here. Anyway,
yeah, there's no better internet service in town for us.
So you have some interesting points. Let's start at the top here. You've mentioned the Vudu FandangoNow merger. How is that going, and have you noticed any major interruptions for anybody?
Well, when they merged, they did not do the due diligence that they probably should have, in that a lot of people were missing movies that they had on FandangoNow that Vudu didn't carry, or what was more common was Vudu had the movie only in standard definition, and FandangoNow had it in HD or 4K. And some movies Vudu only had for rent; they didn't have for purchase. So a lot of movies didn't get transferred over properly. There were a lot of movies for me where FandangoNow had the movie in HD and 5.1 Dolby Digital Audio. Vudu had it in HD and stereo.
Oh.
And most of those have gotten fixed for the most part. I've still got a couple stragglers that haven't been fixed. They finally got the director's cut of The Professional in 4K, so that finally I got that taken out of my library merger issue watch list.
Yeah.
Those are great to have.
Yeah. So
what
kind
of
of
problem with a movie, you can put it in a watch list.
Oh, I never thought of doing that. That's a great idea.
Like I have all my standard definition movies in a watch list. So when there's a big sale, it's like, no, is this okay? Nope. Is this available to upgrade for $5? No.
Is there an easy way to filter on things that you just have an SD copy of? Because I'm sure I have those that I haven't even thought about. Or do you have to go through them one at a time?
You have to go one at a time. It's not like Google Play Movies on an Android phone where you can look at what's only available in SD, HD, or 4K. Unfortunately, but there weren't that many. I knew which ones they were.
Okay.
So I was able to just stick them in a watch list, and then every once in a while, if I have some credits or whatever, I'll look to see what's available for upgrade.
I mean, I've got 1,000 in my various different lockers, between iTunes and Vudu, and I have stopped caring about which was on which service. So, but I don't even know that I would recognize something was on SD until I said, "Oh, let's go watch this," and then be disappointed.
I maintain a database only because I maintain a database only because my wife is a database developer, and that's what she wants.
Sure.
So I've got to put everything in there as to, what disk formats do we have it in, and what services is it on, not necessarily what format do I have it on that service.
I see.
So, every time I get a movie, I got to put it in there, but it helps her because then she can just pull the app up on her phone and do filters on there and see, well, let's watch this.
So the one thing I did do a watch list for is I went through that list of 1,000 movies on both iTunes and Vudu and said, oh, I really haven't actually watched this, because it used to be with the discs, they would stack up and you could say, oh, this is in my pile of shame, and there was no real equivalent. And so I made the watch list, and that's been helpful to kind of use it as a punch list to go through. But yeah, I haven't thought about doing it for things that aren't up to quality standards. So go ahead.
Yeah, nearly a year later, there's still quite a few movies that haven't been fixed, and unfortunately, it's just a slow process. If you are one of those people out there that doesn't have a movie that's fixed, you need to get in touch. You need a log it ticket. with Vudu. And if you haven't heard from them in 6 months or so, you need to kind of give them a good nudge.
Okay. And are you keeping a list of those on Home Theater Forum or anything like that?
No,
But
because everybody's list is a little different. There's so many movies out there, but what I would recommend is, if you're still upset, and I know there's a few people out there who still are like, I'm still waiting for them to upgrade this movie. If you haven't logged a ticket, it's never going to get upgraded because they don't know about it.
And if they need help doing that, send a PM to Todd. Todd will help you do it. Pitchforks.
Yeah.
So, all right. Next on your list was Paramount Plus with HD and HBO Max HDR issues. I'm not familiar with that, but you say they're fixed.
Okay. So yeah, they're now fixed, but Paramount Plus, back in December of 2021, I guess Roku had finally finished rolling out an update. And coincidentally, when that update finally rolled out to all devices, anybody who was using the Paramount Plus standalone app and was a premium subscriber, hence ad-free, you lost HDR, completely lost HDR.
Really? But you kept the resolution, you just lost HDR?
That is tough to say because there's no way to really indicate what resolution you're streaming in with Paramount Plus. But it took them a month, so it took them until mid-January to admit that this had actually happened.
Okay.
They did not fix it until May of this year, 6 months. During that time, I received, I don't know how many emails from their, and I'm going to use quotes, tech team, suggesting that I change the resolution setting on my Roku device to 720p so that I can get 4K HDR.
What?
Yeah. And I go, how can you call yourself a tech team when you can? And they sent me, I think, 7 emails that said that over the course of the 6 months. And it just irritated me when they would do that. And I would send them a response back. Why do you think that would fix the issue? Well, did it? No.
But you actually tried it
to humor them, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And but it took them 6 months, and they kept blaming Roku, and then Roku kept blaming Paramount Plus, and it was just putting the customer in the middle, which seems to be the thing these days, unfortunately. And then when they finally got it fixed, I called them and said, "Hey, I think you guys finally fixed it because I'm getting HDR now, and I'm even getting Dolby Atmos now."
Okay, well that's great.
And they're like, "Oh, great. Well, we're happy for you." And I go, so what are you going to offer your customers who were without HDR for 6 months?
Crickets.
Hold on a minute, let me check. Well, we can give you 10% off your annual renewal.
Well, that's better than crickets.
Yeah. I was like, wow, what an insult. But anyway, yeah, but and that was just on Roku. I mean, they've had issues with digital rights management on Samsung TVs. Where it said, "I'm sorry, you don't live in you can't watch this content because of where you live." And people are like going, "What? I live in the U.S.
We're in America, man."
Yeah, why can't I watch that show? And they're, "Oh, we don't know."
So I know we talked about the Apple TV deal at the beginning of the show, and I know that you've been a big Roku supporter. Do you have both now, or are you still firmly Roku?
I do have one Apple TV in the house. I use that mostly just for when I do have to review digital, a digital release, just to kind of compare between the services and devices.
Gotcha.
Because it helps with my review, because digital is really hard to review quality wise.
Oh man, you're telling me that the first couple digitals that I tried to do, they were having me watch digital on websites. I'm like, no.
I won't do them if they're on a website.
No,
they have to give me a code.
Yeah, won't do it. Yeah,
it has, and I go back to them. I go, I'm sorry, it has to be a retail
code.
It has to be something that consumers are going to be able to watch.
Yeah.
And most of the time, because Sony was doing that with their concert films, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
Because they sent me because they sent me a solicitation for like the No Nukes concert because it had been remastered.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, oh yeah, sure. I'll review that. Okay, well, go to this website.
Uh,
And I go, no.
yeah. Yeah.
But I did a lot of digital reviews during the lockdown because there was nobody to even send discs out to reviewers.
Yeah, there weren't
at
new
that
movies
time.
coming out.
So quite a few times the PR rep would contact me by email, going, "Hey, you know what? We're not going to be able to send you this Blu-ray or this 4K disc. Can we send you a code
Mm.
to review it on digital?" And I'm like,
Yeah, that
well,
works.
that's where we're going to be heading anyway. So
Yep.
sure,
Yeah, yeah.
as long as it's something that Joe Consumer is going to be able to. If it's the same thing that Joe Consumer is getting, no problem.
Yeah.
It's like many years ago when Fox was trying to send DVRs out, not DVRs, DVD-R burned discs out
Yes,
to
yeah.
reviewers that
Yep.
were compressed,
Yep.
even more highly compressed than they would be to the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Home Theater Forum took a stand, and a number of other
Yep.
review sites took stands and said, "No, we're not reviewing that."
Yep. Silk screened or nothing.
So, but reviews like that, though, I understand that there is a purpose for those. And I mean, if you're reviewing a show for, if there's a new series on Netflix, that's how Netflix does their reviews. But most of the time, they're more interested in just getting someone to review the content
rather than
not the quality.
Right. Yeah.
And as far as that's concerned, and if it's a new TV show that's brought, that's on NBC or something, fine, that's a fine way to review something.
Yeah.
But if you're asking me to review a Blu-ray disc,
yeah,
send me the Blu-ray disc that a customer is going to go into Best Buy and purchase.
Right. All right. So we've danced around a little bit. Let's jump into this Disney and Netflix talking about having ad-supported tiers. Where do you come down on that?
Well, I do have Hulu. I do have ad-supported Hulu.
Me too.
And it's okay. It's fine. I don't think the commercials are too intrusive, at least on their television programs.
Yep.
They do place them in regular commercial spots that were intended for commercials in the most cases.
Yep.
Movies are a little different, and they've taken a different stance on movies on Hulu.
Do they
which
just
I'm
do
not
it
completely happy with?
Do they do timed, or is it like on a scene cut?
They used to do just a front load of 90 seconds to 2 minutes of commercials, and then the movie was commercial free after that. And that was like, oh, that is fantastic.
Yeah, but that's too easy to circumvent too.
So now, because they're getting a lot more 20th Century Studio product of their own product, and they're trying to beef up the service a little bit, they've now been reprogramming a lot of content that they know they're going to have long term. So you'll get that front loaded 90 seconds to 2 minutes of commercials, and then about 15 minutes in you'll get a commercial break, and then about another 15 minutes in you'll get a commercial break, and then that'll be it. The rest of the movie will play uninterrupted.
So I too have Hulu with ads, and I felt icky doing the deal to get it. I forget, was it $20 a year or something dumb like that? And then I started watching more Twitch TV and YouTube, and they have interstitial ads. And so I've broken my no commercials, never ever way of thinking, and I still feel icky about it, but I've mellowed on it so that I don't at least avoid content that I want to see. But I don't feel good about it. And I know that's privilege, and I know that, adding a Disney Plus and Netflix ad-supported tier is going to open it up to people that don't have white-collar jobs and no kids the way that I do. So, I mean, I'm all for, them having that opportunity. But I just think ads are the bane of the source of all evil, right after money. So
yeah, and unfortunately, that's where a lot of things are going right now. There's a lot of ad-supported free streaming services that people are using and people are very happy with them. Freevee TV, which used to be IMDb TV, they're seeing a huge increase in viewership. Pluto TV is seeing a huge increase in viewership. Zumo TV, which is owned by Comcast, which is almost identical to Pluto TV, except the channel lineup's a little different. It's more Comcast Universal focused, where Pluto is more Paramount focused.
I see.
Because of who they're owned by.
Right.
But with Netflix, I think they're going with the ad supported tier only because they took such a bath that last quarter
on churn,
and they're spending all this money on content, and they got to make it up somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And the last time they did a price increase and people balked at it, they actually backed down. This time they didn't. They called the customers bluff. Yeah. And the customers called their bluff. And unfortunately, they were hit with a high churn rate. Mm-hmm. But when they started seeing, when they started looking at the numbers for Hulu and for Paramount Plus and even HBO Max, those services actually, in most cases, have more ad-supported subscribers than they have ad-free subscribers.
I mean, that makes sense.
Now, of course, with HBO Max and Paramount Plus, you don't get the 4K picture quality. And with HBO Max, you weren't getting the day-and-date theatrical releases when they were doing those as well. Mm-hmm. It's going to be interesting to see what Netflix does on there, because I don't know. Not much has been released. They haven't really said a whole lot as to what they were going to do. Just that they were going to be starting at an ad-supported tier or two by the end of the year. Mm-hmm. When you look at their price, the way Netflix is priced, they've got their basic tier, which is standard definition, one stream. That's $9.99 a month. They have a standard tier, which is HD and 2 streams, so you can have 2 simultaneous streams. Mm-hmm. And that's $15.49 a month now. And then the premium, which is what I still subscribe to. Same. I was gonna dump it, and then I didn't. Mm-hmm. That is 4K with 4 streams for $19.99. Yep. So my question is, where are they going to price these ad-supported tiers, and what are these tiers going to be? It's
got to be free, right?
Well, it's not going to be free. No.
You don't think so?
No. It won't. I think they've already stated it won't be free. My hunch is that maybe they'll have a basic ad-supported version of their basic that would be maybe between $5.99 and $7.99, and maybe a standard ad-supported version $9.99 to $12.99. I don't know. Or maybe they'll just have a $5.99 or $7.99 ad-free that maybe has 1 or 2 streams to it, and maybe is HD.
Well, maybe what they're going to do is they'll have you strapped down to a chair like Alex and have your eyes medically kept open so that you're forced to watch these ads.
Yeah. And the other question is, how are they going to handle the ads? Are they going to do the front loaded? Mm-hmm. Or are they going to do the front load plus the interstitials? And I think that's where there was a rumor a few weeks ago that Netflix was thinking of buying Roku.
Oh, really? I missed that one. Somebody
was running that, and I'm like, no, that's not going to happen. And a lot of analysts kind of looked into it, and they're like, yeah, that's bullshit. But when I started to think about it, I'm like, well, they're talking to Roku. Well, where's Roku making a lot of their money these days? Because they're not making it on hardware, really.
No.
Because we've pretty much reached a saturation point with streaming hardware.
I would think so, yeah.
Now, obviously, they're still going to make hardware because these things don't last forever, and we do have jumps in technology and so forth.
Yep.
Yeah, my hunch is that I think Netflix was talking to Roku to buy software.
What do you mean?
Looking at how are you running the Roku channel? Because it's basically it's not that different. The Roku channel, started out really as mostly a on-demand ad-supported service.
Yeah.
So my feeling was, because that was true that Netflix was talking to Roku about something.
You can't imagine that Netflix would be talking to them about technology purchases, right? Because,
well,
I mean, they've got all the encodes, they've got all the servers already. So it's got to be on the front end, right?
No, I think it was more how are you doing ads?
Oh, hmm.
Or
The ad
possibly
serving tech.
partnering with them and using them as a sales to sell ads on Netflix. That's just me thinking outside of the box,
Yeah.
because that part was true. In fact, at both Netflix and Roku, they put in this out of the blue where employees couldn't purchase stock all of a sudden, and it wasn't the normal time that they couldn't purchase stock.
So something was
something
up,
was going on.
Yeah.
Because if you've ever worked for a company that that was a public company, and I have, and they did a lot of acquisitions, when those acquisitions were about to be announced, there was suddenly a freeze on employee stock purchases.
Yeah, quiet modes or something like that.
Yeah.
Which
also blows my mind. And I'm going off topic a little bit here with the whole CNN Plus debacle at Warner Discovery.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we can move on to Disney Plus.
Yeah, let's pull that thread just a little bit too, because my parents keep saying, "Do we need this Discovery Plus? All the shows that I wanted have moved to that. That they love have moved to that, and they can't get them on their cable anymore. So are they in danger of killing their cable TV stuff by pushing this stuff to the streams too fast?"
That's the big question: is how much longer is cable and broadcast TV going to last?
And we certainly haven't seen any move to 4K HDR over the air, right? So that almost seems like a dead shift.
There are some markets in the U.S. that are doing it.
Yeah, but it's not an all of country effort, so it's
not yet.
Onesie twosies. It's dead in the water.
Yeah, remember how long it took us to get to HD, and digital. They had to keep putting off the digital cutoff.
Yeah, but they made it work, man. I see that as a success. I know it was painful, but I see that HD transition as overall a success.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if there's any truth anymore to the rumor that that they're going to merge HBO Max and Discovery into one service. I don't know how true that is anymore.
I think they're crazy if they don't. But I know folks like my parents who are tied to a single TV with a cable box and will never go to streaming. They're losing out, and I know that for sure.
Yeah.
So one other thing that you mentioned was that technology moves on and new versions come out. The first thing I thought of when I saw the Apple TV at $120, I was like, well, they're definitely replacing that in the fall.
Because that rumor keeps coming around.
Yeah, but I don't know what else they can. I don't know what else they can add to Apple TV. I was one of the ones that wanted them to make a Blu-ray player. I wanted them to tie, the Apple TV service into cable boxes. But neither of those matter. If they ever mattered, they don't matter anymore. So what else do we need out of an Apple TV box except better gaming, right? I mean, that's the only thing that they could add to it, that as far as I can see.
Or a budget version.
Well, that's true. If you make it a thumb drive for $99, they'll sell 1 trillion of them.
Right.
Am I the guy that's going to buy that? Probably not. And is it way better to have that built into the TV? Yeah, for the first 2 years of the TV's life, and then it becomes, an anchor. I don't know.
Right, and I forgot to put this in the notes, but the CEO of Roku had at one point not too long ago predicted that eventually companies like Samsung, Vizio, LG are going to have to adopt Roku, Fire, or Android, or possibly Apple, as the smart engine for their television.
I don't know, man. All my TV, and I know I'm not a typical consumer, but all of my TVs are life support systems for HDMI 1. So.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know about that, but that's why I'm in a completely different business.
Yeah.
All right. So what about this Sony's inconsistencies? I know that you got a couple marks against them. Oh, jump in.
Disney Plus.
Oh, okay. Quick. Yeah.
I think what we're going to see with Disney Plus is hold on to your seat. And actually, Disney has come out and said this. They're going to come out with an ad-supported version.
Mm-hmm.
and expect a price increase on the ad-free version.
Oh, I'm fine with that. I think they're the best value
So
in the
I think
market right now.
it's going to be a sticker shock for those of us who got in on that 3-year deal,
Yep.
because that's coming up this October.
Mm-hmm.
It's currently $7.99 a month for the ad free. I think it's going to go up to $9.99.
Yeah, may even be more than that.
And the ad supported will come in at $5.99, I think.
Yeah,
Because
I'm fine with that.
At $7.99, you can't really go a whole lot lower than that.
Right.
With ad, especially when you look at the pricing on Hulu.
So I didn't ask this, but if you were to rate the services, I know we're going to talk about the best streaming devices, but if you were going to rate the streaming services by value, which would you say is the best value and the worst?
Disney's probably the best, because they don't surcharge you for the 4K.
Yep.
Their original content is actually pretty good.
For both adults and kids.
Right. And they're bringing a lot of content over from like National Geographic Channel.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife loves animal shows. So we're getting our animal shows there. They have a great series called Secrets of the Zoo, and they have like 4 or 5 different zoos that they do that show on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an interesting show. They have a lot of vet shows as well.
Nat Geo.
On the National Geographic tab, on Disney Plus. And the Marvel shows are really good as well. And so and the Star Wars shows have been very good too.
Yeah, they're a little up and down, and I think people are starting to get Star Wars burnout. I'm afraid to say. We'll see how long they can keep that going.
Yeah. They have said that on the ad supported that there will be no ads on any of the child age profiles.
Really, I would have thought it would be just the opposite.
And regardless of which profile you're on, any show that's aimed at a preschooler will be ad free.
Mm-hmm.
No more than 4 minutes of ads per hour, which is half of what Hulu does.
Yeah.
And no ads for competitors, alcohol, or politics.
Yeah, I mean, you could make a mint just advertising action figures and the equivalent for princess for girls, but yeah.
And I'm sure we'll get more promos as well for upcoming shows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which Paramount Plus does without being able to skip. At least on Prime Video, you can skip that.
Do you think? Prime is an excellent value whether you're using it or not because it's essentially free. Do you think that HBO Max and Netflix are good values for what they're costing?
I think HBO Max is still overpriced at $14.99 a month for the content that you get on there. Because I go on there my 6-month trial ended 2 months ago, and I still have not gone in and canceled it. But I've gone in to look for something. I'm like, no. Oh, that movie's on there. I'll have to remember that before I, cancel the service. And then my wife's like, oh, I want to see that series. And because she
for me, it's all about the series rather than the movies, though.
Yeah. So but $14.99 a month, I think is a little steep. And Netflix, especially $19.99 a month, I think is a bit steep as well. And lately, I haven't really found. Well, no, I take that back. A couple months ago, I couldn't find anything on there to watch. The last month or two, I found they brought back a lot of series that we were watching previously. So, like Umbrella Academy.
Okay.
So we didn't cancel it.
So
I'm trying to get into the habit of canceling and coming back, but I just have not gotten to do that.
So a lot of people were surprised. The last award show for TV, I forget which one it was just literally dominated by Apple TV Plus. And so
they also won their first Oscar this year.
Yep. And so they're straddling between TV and movies with what they're putting out. And they're also doing documentaries, kids TV. I think a lot of people underestimated Apple's let's start small and grind on it and build every 6 months. And I think this is going to turn into a juggernaut that people are not ready for. Just on the awards that they're winning alone.
Yeah, and I mean it's what, $4.99 a month.
I don't know. Whatever.
I think.
It's
Yeah, it is $4.99 a month because
yeah.
it's another service I keep forgetting to cancel.
Yeah.
After my free trial. But what's great about Apple is that both the Apple TV Plus and the Apple Music, you can still get, if you go directly to Apple, their free trials are not very good.
Mm-hmm.
They're not very long. But if you go to a retailer like Target, you go to target.com or you go to bestbuy.com, you can get a free trial gift card and you get like 3 months of Apple TV Plus or 6 months of Apple Music.
And that's even for
free.
returning people, or you legit have to be a new customer?
New and returning.
Wow.
With Apple Music, what I found is if I go off Apple Music for a month or two, I can go back and get one of those free trials and get another 5. I think I just did that. I canceled for like 2 months, and then I got the Best Buy 6-month trial, and I got 5 months of Apple Music. So I haven't tried Apple TV Plus yet because I still haven't canceled my the free trial that came with my my iPhone.
Gotcha. I'm thinking about this, Todd, and I think the only service that I've ever signed up for that I've actually canceled has been the Criterion channel, and that wasn't for a lack of content. They definitely were putting good stuff out. It's just I was overwhelmed at my number of choices, and that just happened to be the last one that was costing me significant amounts of money for the amount that I was getting out of it. So there's a limit for everybody, even content heads like me. So wrapping this up, you have a couple things on Sony. What's going on there?
Just that Movies Anywhere has supported Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos for a number of years.
Yep.
And Sony consistently, if you try to watch any Sony movies that you own in your Movies Anywhere library and you have them in 4K, you're only going to be able to watch them in HDR10 and 5.1 audio on the Movies Anywhere app.
Okay.
And that's been an ongoing battle. And I'm at the point where I'm about ready to send some letters on that.
But is that still?
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Is it still true if you use the iTunes app or the TV app
for Movies Anywhere?
Yeah, for Sony movies and Movies Anywhere, if you watch them on
across all platforms.
No, I'm just saying on the Apple TV or something. If you watch it on the TV app, do they get downgraded or are they full power there?
No, if you watch the movies on Vudu or if you watch them on the Apple TV app or the iTunes app, they will be in Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos if it's available.
So why would you want to use the Movies Anywhere app as opposed to the native apps or the Premiere apps?
The search function on Roku for Movies Anywhere is better than on Apple TV.
I see. Okay.
Plus, for larger families, these extra services with where you can, because there's still a limit to the number of devices you can use on an app. I think it's now 10. Used to be 8. So with Vudu, you could have up to 8 devices connected to your Vudu account. With Movies Anywhere, you could have up to 8 devices connected to your Movies Anywhere account, and then I think Apple limits you to 5. I think.
I don't know. I've got more than that just by myself and haven't run into it, but
yeah. So with Movies Anywhere, with being able to watch it on different services, especially for large families, it kind of helps spread out your devices.
Gotcha.
A little more. But then there's things like Lawrence of Arabia. So on Movies Anywhere, it's HDR10 and 5.1. On Apple TV, it's Dolby Vision and 5.1, and on Vudu, it's Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos.
But if each of those services are doing their own encodes, is that Sony's fault or is it the service's fault?
That's the question.
Yeah, and we don't know.
Sony says it's the service. The retailer says it's Sony. So, Uncharted is the same thing. Movies Anywhere is HDR10 and 5.1. Apple TV, it's Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos. But on Vudu, it's Dolby Vision and 5.1.
Bringing up Uncharted made me think of something that I wanted to talk about with the Prime Day. Have you noticed that 4K discs are holding their value on the stores for a lot longer now?
I think that's true of pretty much a physical media period.
You think so?
We're not seeing, I used to remember when, new movies opening, the first week that they were available on disc, you could pick them up for $20.
Yep.
Even in 4K.
Yep.
Unless it's a catalog title, that's just not the case anymore. 4K is going to be $30 to $35 the first week. Blu-ray is going to be $20 to $25, usually sometimes $30, depending on the title.
Yep.
I don't look at DVD anymore, but
yeah. So talking about Sony, I've had a couple Sony 4K discs in my wish list, including Far From Home. And as you said, it was $24.99 first week. After that, it went up to $27.99 and has not been cheaper than $25.99. So I'm wondering if they've just been holding this for Prime Week or if it's just the new normal that these discs are going to hold their value.
I think it's the new normal. I don't think you're going to see a real influx or a big sale on pricing until Black Friday, probably. That's been the traditional, still this traditional bargain time for physical media.
But I want an Oompa Loompa now, Todd. So finishing out with Sony, you said that they've got some content deals that are with Netflix and Disney and Hulu.
Right.
What's the
we know
deal?
Sony's been so good at launching their own streaming services.
Yes.
Over the years. I think they finally gave up because they sold Crackle to Chicken Soup for the Soul.
What?
Who just bought Redbox as well.
What?
Sony does not own Crackle anymore.
No, I know that, but is that really the name of the company?
That's the name of the company.
That's insane.
And they just acquired Redbox too.
Are they like their own vertical the way like a For Dummies would be? Because I mean that's
I don't know.
It's like that one book spawned like 400 different things. Is that what happened?
I don't know. I just was doing some research on Redbox and saw that they were because I thought I had heard that they were on the verge of bankruptcy, and then they just got acquired by the same company that owns Crackle.
Wow, that's crazy. You're gonna have to post some notes in the show notes on that because I want to read up on that one.
All right, but so Sony, their deal with Starz ended last year.
Yeah. Okay.
With the 2021 theatricals. So starting this year with 2022 theatrical releases, they're going to be premiering on Netflix about 30 to 60 days after the physical media release. And the first one is going to be later this month, with Morbius. Morbius is going to hit Netflix later this month. Mm-hmm. For those of you who absolutely have to see it.
Yes, it's Morbin time.
Yeah. But it'll be on Netflix for about 13 months.
Okay.
After that 13 months, sometime after that 13 months, those movies are going to transition over to Disney Plus or Hulu, depending on how mature the content is, obviously.
Yeah.
The more mature content is going to end up on Hulu. The more family-friendly stuff is going to be on Disney Plus. And then it'll be on those services for about 13 months. It was really weird because I remember when that deal was announced, it was like, one day the Netflix announcement came out, and then the following day the Disney Plus press release came out, and they were almost identical. And I'm like, did they screw up the other press release? And then I had to look at it and read it really carefully, and it was like, oh, okay, Netflix first, then Disney.
Yeah.
And I remember everyone was like, "Yay, the Spider-Man movies are finally coming to Disney Plus." I go, yeah, but not for another year or two.
Yeah. It's crazy what these windows are doing. The Black Phone is still in theaters, came out a week or two ago, and they just announced that it'll be on digital on Friday. Mm-hmm. And I guess they're going to charge $30 for it. I mean, it's a movie I wanted to see. I could have gone to use my A-list to go see it, but...
Well, the first 2 weeks that Doctor Strange 2 was on Disney Plus, it was still playing in theaters. Yeah. Of course, it was playing to crickets in the smallest auditoriums, but it was still playing.
You got to ring that long tail, man.
Yeah, the Batman was doing it too.
And does any of that the Sony deals that you're talking about? Does any of that have impacts on MCU characters or anything like that, or is that totally separate?
Well, the Spider-Man movies are included in that part of that.
But not characters, right? It's just windows that we're talking about.
It's just content.
Yeah. Okay.
Now Netflix does get what Disney Plus didn't get. Netflix does get anything that's made that Sony co-produces directly for Netflix, whether it be a direct-to-video movie or a series, they get sequel rights to it. So.
Yeah. Okay. It's interesting. You also have a note here that there's other content reverting back to studio and streaming.
So we know that that 20th Century Studios, no longer 20th Century Fox,
right?
This is the last year for that on HBO.
Okay.
And Disney signed made a special deal with them so that some of that content will appear on either Disney Plus or Hulu, and we've seen that. We've seen that with West Side Story, Nightmare Alley, The King's Man, and a few other movies.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be some movies that are going to be on both services. But at the end, when 2022 theatricals are over, that's going to be all Hulu from that point forward.
Do you see it sustainable as keeping these Disney Plus, Hulu, Discovery as separate services? Or do you see them eventually merging into a single one?
That's a big question because I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens to Hulu in the next 18 months. Because Disney has 18 months to decide whether or not to buy out Comcast's 1/3 stake in Hulu.
Yeah.
And they have to do it at market value.
Yeah.
And I read an interesting article rather recently, and where they were saying, well, maybe Comcast should buy the 2/3 from Disney. And I'm like,
yeah, I don't know about that.
They were like, well, there's better synergy there with Peacock because it'll be like Pluto and Paramount Plus. And I'm like, I read that and I was like, well, they must have forgotten that Comcast owns Zumo, which is a Pluto clone. But
I forgot. Yeah. I forgot Peacock even existed.
Yeah, I don't watch anything. I don't watch anything on Peacock because everything's behind the paywall.
Yeah.
I think the only time I've watched Peacock was, I think, a news special that, again, my local affiliate here cut into, and it wasn't on Hulu.
Oh boy. Yeah. So, I don't even think I have the app installed.
And then MGM. I think it was announced just the other day that Stallone's latest movie that he made for MGM is skipping theaters and going right to Prime Video. And of course, we know Amazon now owns MGM outright.
Right.
So.
Yeah. We'll see how that transition goes.
Yeah.
But I mean, I trust Amazon to handle that right. I trust Disney to handle the Fox stuff. But anything after that, man, I don't know. I don't know how it's all going to shake out. But it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. Well, they've already said that the new home for 20th Century Studio movies and for Searchlight movies is going to be Hulu.
Yeah, we'll see. Like I said, we'll see.
Unless it's a family-friendly kind of movie.
Well, maybe we can get Song of the South on Hulu too.
Well, they have the mature rating now on Disney Plus. So.
Yeah, good luck ever putting anything mature on that. I don't see it happening.
They put the Marvel Netflix series.
Yeah, I mean that's
and they moved the Beatles Get Back to that as well.
Did they?
Yeah.
And what is that called? Is it a whole separate tab?
No. So when you set your ratings,
yeah,
for each of the profiles, you can set a pin to it as well. So like a child's profile, or if you set a profile to TV 14,
yeah.
You can't watch, and you won't even see it on your user interface, anything above TV 14.
And Get Back is rated R or something like that?
It doesn't have a rating. It has a for parental discretion advised. I would give it a TVMA rating just for language.
Okay.
And I checked because I do have some different user profiles with different age limits on them. And you can't get back unless you have a full TVMA setting.
Good job, Disney, preventing children from being exposed to the Beatles. That's all I have to say. Well, Todd, this was an awesome conversation. I love picking your brain with stuff like this. Hopefully we can keep it up and keep definitely got some ideas for some more things. Did I catch all of your?
We just didn't do streaming devices, but we kind of covered that
Oh yeah,
early
yeah,
on.
yeah. That's true.
I think Roku is your best value.
Okay.
If you're looking for the best of the best, then of course Apple TV. Stay away from the Fire Stick 4K Max.
Okay.
The 4K Fire Stick is okay. The 4K Fire Stick Max, stay away from it. It has mandatory frame interpolation turned on.
Ugh.
You cannot turn it off. Stay away from it. Unless you like the soap opera effect.
Well, there are people
but
that do.
There's no reason for a soap opera effect to be on a streaming device when every TV has that functionality on it.
Yeah, that's crazy. Any kind of dark horses there? Or what about the TVs that have some of those Fire and other things built in?
If you're looking for a bedroom TV, I think those are good value.
Okay.
Built-in Roku, built-in Fire TV, and throw a sound bar on it for like a bedroom or a den or a playroom or something like that. Those are, and you don't have a lot of space, that's a good option.
Mm-hmm.
The apps are going to still be maintained on that much longer than they would on like LG's WebOS or Samsung's Tizen.
Yeah.
Because they come out with a new version of WebOS and Tizen like every 2 years, and that's when all the apps stop getting updated for that older version of the operating system. So
okay, well, we appreciate that.
Like my 7-year-old LG, which has WebOS on it, none of the apps work on that anymore.
Yeah, and you helped me get the Roku from my parents, and they've been enjoying that every time I come to visit because they can't figure it out on their own. No, no joke, really. I'm not throwing them under the bus or anything. They literally cannot figure out how to get to HDMI 2. So
my mom lost her Roku remote, and she was so proud of herself that she was able to load the Roku app on her iPhone and control her Roku from her iPhone.
Well, I am proud of your mom because
and click on private listening so that she could use her Bluetooth hearing aids to watch TV.
Well, treasure that, Todd, because I think that's a rare gift for our generation's parents to be able to pull that off. Mine definitely have no interest in even trying. So definitely appreciate that. All right, well, let's try
that theme song.
Let's try that again. Where our contractually mandated DRM breaking theme song. We have 2 players tonight. I've got mine, and which is RRR, which I almost did last week. And you said that you wanted to talk about Terrific Man, so I'm not going to submarine you and make it my choice. But I thought Terrific Man was good, so rest easy on that.
Because I don't think it's good.
Well, it's good for what it is, Todd. I think
yes, it is. I got to say, it was fun putting that movie back together. Yep. What was more fun though, and again, if you don't post a link, Sam, I will, to the playlist where you can get all the bonus features as well. I had a blast putting together the special features for that.
Well, I did watch the Zoom call, and that was fun with you guys reminiscing.
The commentary was more fun.
Oh, I haven't done that, so I'll have to.
We had a lot of fun with the commentary. It's very funny.
No, I think you guys had a lot of talent for the gear that you had and the tools that were available to you, and I know that my group of friends could not have put anything together nearly that well done.
Wait till Warren's Revenge comes out.
Okay. All right.
I hired a cinematographer on that one.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. So again, my choice is RRR, which is on Netflix in 4K and Dolby Atmos, and yours is Cinderella, which I believe is the 2021 Walt Disney version.
2021 Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime version. Okay, that's a different horse of a different color. All right, you want to go first, or you want me to?
You can go first.
Okay, so have you heard of RRR, or have you watched it?
I have not watched it. I have heard of it. Mm-hmm. 2 of my friends raved about it. They both raved about the 3D in it. The one friend has a 3D museum in LA.
Okay.
And works with Bob Furmarek in he helps with this fundraiser for restoring 3D classics. So, so he raved about it. One of my former co-writers, who I keep in touch with, she raved about it, and she actually saw it twice. I know it's a long movie. I'm like, wow.
It is, yeah. It's close to 3 hours, yeah.
So I'm going to say good.
Okay. Two questions. First of all, the 3D is on Netflix in 3D, or how did they see it in 3D?
No, there were select theaters that actually ran it in 3D, so they saw it in the theater. Okay. They didn't see it on Netflix. They saw it several months ago.
Okay. All right. So, just setting the scene here a little bit, it is a Bollywood dramatization of the independence from the British rule. And so imagine in our history, if you've seen 1776 where they break out into song about, so imagine that, but also putting in the violence of the ultra violence of a Bollywood, kung fu style, beat 'em up, blow 'em up kind of thing. And I did have to, I watched, it was recommended to me by one of my fellow board game players. Went into it not knowing anything about it. The movie opens with this guy essentially taking on the tiger from Life of Pi kind of deal. And then from there goes into how he becomes a hero of this movement for independence, along with a buddy cop kind of bromance with a guy who unknowingly is trying to take him down. I thought it was hysterical. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was incredibly well done. About an hour and a half into it, and I said, "All right, enough with the kung fu type stuff." But no, they didn't listen to me, and they just got even crazier with it. So I would definitely say that it's good. I would definitely say you have to not only be willing to suspend disbelief, but also be on board with a couple things. One, the Bollywood dance moves and stuff like that. On top of that, it was filmed in one language, it was dubbed in another, and then on top of that, it was subtitles in English. So the voices don't match up to the mouths, and you have subtitles going on. So I know that there's a good portion of the American viewing public that is going to be against that. But for somebody like me who loves the history of film, who has had a limited exposure to Bollywood movies, who thinks that just breaking out into dance in the middle of the thing is expected and normal and hilarious and incredibly well done visually, the visual flair on it is great. The HDR is great. The Atmos is great. Actually, the Atmos, the one area I was disappointed was the low end, and I'm almost thinking that there was some kind of hiccup there because I put it on down in my basement the next day, and I think it was a little bit better. So be careful there. If things don't sound like they're lining up right, try a different stream. Try to reset and stuff like that. But yes, definitely good, definitely recommended. I started a thread on Home Theater Forum about it, and that's gotten some good feedback too. But definitely do not take it as any kind of accurate telling of the war for independence.
The director's previous film was about twice as long.
Really, 6 hours?
Yeah, I've been listening to the Movies That Made Us podcast, a couple of those that Josh Olson and Joe Dante do. And I think they were talking to Neil McDonough, and they were talking about this movie as well.
Okay.
And they said something like that. Yeah, his previous film was like 5 hours.
Oh man. No, I don't think I could sit through that. Not in one sitting. I am halfway through Reds. Have you ever seen Reds?
Oh yeah.
And that's over 4 hours. I got to the intermission on that and said, I'm coming back to this another day. I was
Did
not.
you ever come back?
No, this has been 3 months. I don't know if I ever will.
Oh, I thought you saw it in theater. And walked out.
No. I
And
got
30
the
year later, you didn't.
no. I got
watching
in.
the second half.
I think it was on iTunes for like $2.99. I was like, oh, I heard that was good. I had no idea that what the history of it was, and I wound up researching the actors' takes on it and blah 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 and all the politics behind that we can't get into. And I don't know that this was
about
the right
Russian Revolution.
Yeah. But I don't know if this was the right movie for me to begin with.
No.
But someday I'll finish it.
Yeah. Well, imagine someone who's a teenager trying to watch it.
Oh no, that's when you saw it?
That was me. That
Oh,
was me.
no.
That was the last time I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about yours. I thought you were talking about the Disney princess remake of Cinderella. Tell me about the Amazon version.
Directed by Ken. Oh, yeah. You're thinking of the one with Kenneth Branagh
Yes.
directed, and Lily James is Cinderella.
Yes.
No,
No,
this is the new jukebox musical version, starring Camilo Cabello, I think is her name.
Okay.
And a bunch of other people. Pierce Brosnan is in it yet again. It plays another king in another costume drama. Totally miscast. He's doing a Sean Connery impersonation.
Well, they were both James Bond, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
4K HDR Dolby Atmos.
This was a Blu-ray release. This was a Blu-ray disc that was sent to me by Sony to review.
Mm-hmm.
It is available on Prime for free in 4K HDR and Atmos.
Okay.
Auto-tune galore.
Auto-tune.
I think I've already answered your question. Yeah,
Auto-tune jukebox. I'm going all the way to ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that bad, huh?
Yeah, I think my tagline on the review is Cringerella on auto-tune. This movie is it's self-aware. It's way too self-aware.
Oh, they wink at the audience kind of deal?
Yeah, it's from so it was written and directed by I don't have her name in front of me, but she wrote all three of the Pitch Perfect movies.
Okay.
It was produced by James Corden, who also makes an appearance because he has to, because he's in everything these days.
Every musical, at least.
Yeah. It was just a struggle to get through, and it tries to be way too inclusive of everything, and tries way too hard at that as well. The Fabulous Godmother was a bit too much for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very divisive film too, because I was looking at the reviews of it from users on Home Theater Forum, and there were some people who absolutely loved it, and there were others that absolutely hated it, and very few people who were in the middle.
Were the folks that loved it like 14-year-old girls? Was that like the target audience, and did it at least hit with them?
No, I'm talking about Home Theater Forum members.
Oh, okay. So some Home Theater Forum members did like it.
Loved it.
Well, maybe it's just you. I'll have to break the tie.
There were others who absolutely hated it, like me. So, and I posted my review just a few days ago, and there's a couple of people who go, well, yeah, it's not everyone's cup of tea. One guy was like, another one's like, yeah, you're right. I absolutely hated it. So.
All right. Well, I'll put the trailer in the show notes, and we'll go from there.
All right.
All right. Well, Todd, I had a lot of fun with this one. I wasn't 100% sure that we were going to fill the time. We've gone almost 2 hours talking about streaming frustrations. We do. We have very strong opinions. And you and I see things mostly the same way, I think. So that's very cool.
Yeah.
But we appreciate you being the expert and filling us in. And we'll keep an eye on Amazon tonight and see if anything else cool pops up. And we'll keep hoping that the streaming world evolves and gets better.
Yep.
All right, Todd, any final words?
No.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us.
Be sure to check out Terrific Man on YouTube.
Terrific Man on YouTube, and Todd's review of Cinderella.
Yep.
All right, Todd. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you again next time.
All right.
This has been Home Theater United. We'll be back.